No, I don't live in the van, but I got it with the intention of adventure filmmaking. You know, you can charge the camera and everything.
Cool.
And then I got a job and I have to be in the office all the time. So I thought, how can I use it and be creative? I thought, I like to interview people for filmmaking already.
Yeah.
I'll bring the mobile studio to my guests.
That's so cool.
And when I was considering, you know, should I do a podcast? Who could I talk to? The wealth of talented people from where we are from was phenomenal. And I thought, wow, if I only talk to people who are from our hometown, that could fill a whole roster anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
So
it's like weird, actually. Especially when I do like radio interviews in town too. They're like, oh, so you must know this person, and like list so many people. I'm like, yeah, it is weird. Yeah. There's like so much art and creativity here.
It's so astounding.
In our generation especially too, which is crazy.
The people you're recognizing, like they're all kind of around our age.
Yeah.
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 It's exciting.
I know.
But I'm so happy to have you today, Taylor Ray.
I'm so stoked to be here.
Like we were talking about before. Hometown pride.
Yes.
I'm wearing my SLV hat, San Lorenzo Valley.
Gosh. I love that. I love that.
And more specifically, Ben Lomond, right?
Ben Lomond.
That's amazing.
Born and raised.
Born and raised. And for the people who don't yet know you, where are you at these days and what are you up to?
I live in Austin, Texas, and I have been there for about 5 years. I just bought a house actually with my sister out there. And so the two of us are, you know, growing our roots down in that area. But I spend most of my time on the road. Yeah, last year I think I spent more time on the road than I did actually at home. And so, but that's the way I like it. So that's pretty much what I've been up to since I released an album in 2021.
Yeah, I want to get all into that.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. All over the road. And that's kind of why I love this Vancast too. It's like I can catch up with anybody anywhere.
So cool.
And so how long have you been out in Austin now?
So I think I moved in 2018. Yeah.
All right.
2018. And I have always wanted to live there. Just like since I was a kid, I had this fascination with Texas. I just wanted to be a cowgirl. And I was like, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to end up in like elementary school. And then when I started writing songs and getting a little bit older, listening to more like indie singer-songwriter music, there was just like a common thread running through. And I was like, oh man, everyone lives in Austin. Like this place must be really cool. And kind of just had my sights set on it from a young age and went to music school in LA. Really did not enjoy living in that city. Came back up to Santa Cruz for a little while and then made a plan to get out. And that happened, 2018.
So you were before all of the COVID travelers. So you were kind of more of the OG still.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I think I'm finally like, okay, I'm not scared to tell people I'm from California anymore.
Yeah, because I got to be like, I've been thinking about Texas for quite some time now. But I'm like, if I go there, I'm going to get bullied or something like that.
Yeah, I know. There was like a huge influx, obviously, after COVID. And now things are different. But I mean, it's just such an incredible city. Like, and all the cities I've been to in the past year, especially, I still come back to Austin. I'm like, still my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think you will be our third guest here from, well, you know, living and performing in Texas.
Nice.
I had Palmer Anthony, the country singer, and Abby the Nomad, hip-hop artist.
Oh my gosh,
living in Austin.
Him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. He's in Austin too.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Maybe I'm going to call it now, Taylor Ray, Abby the Nomad collab one day.
Oh my God, let's do it. I'm so down. Yeah, I learned about him a couple years ago, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, he was passing through, played the Catalyst a few months ago and hopped aboard. So
nice.
Right in downtown Santa Cruz. But before we get it all into, you know, the album, you know, your time in Southern California and now Texas, tell us a little bit about what got you into music. Because, well, sorry, really quick.
No, go.
When I told my family who I was having on today, my mom was immediately like, she's so talented. Because we all grew up in the same town and saw you performing all the time. And she's like, oh my gosh, your voice is amazing. And so
Thanks. Well,
there you go. Everybody's psyched to hear this. And we'd love to hear a little bit more about what got you into it.
Yeah. So it's always an interesting question because there was never really like a moment where I was like, oh, I love music. Like, I think I just was born and then I started singing before I could talk. And it was just always something that I did. And so at an early age, my parents put me in voice lessons, piano lessons, and that's kind of just what got the ball rolling. Like no one in my immediate family plays music. No one like tried to do that for a living. So I don't really know. It's kind of a mystery, like where it came from. It was just this natural development. And so a few years into lessons, started writing songs, started writing lyrics. And I was kind of disinterested in the piano at that point. So I picked up the guitar and I asked to take guitar lessons. And my parents said no, because I never practiced piano because I didn't like the piano. And so I taught myself guitar around like age 12 and started singing my own songs. And that's pretty much just been my whole life. I was pretty involved in like musical theater too. So it's just like always wanted to be on stage and always wanted to express myself in that way. So when I started writing songs, that was like a huge driver for me to keep doing that. And yeah, I think at no point was it like a question like, oh, what do I want to do when I grow up? Or, you know, what do I want to do after high school? Or like, what direction do I want to go? It was always just like, I am this already. So I'm just going to keep being this and see where it takes me. And yeah, I'm so grateful for the support that I've had. Like my family has always just been 100% behind me. And even down to like our high school counselor, who when everyone is doing like ACT and SAT testing, she was just like, you don't need to do any of that. Like you're going to go to music school and it's going to be fine. And my parents were like, okay with me not going to university and just like, yeah, no plan Bs, never any plan Bs, which looking back is like scarier now to think about. I'm like, man, I really just went for it. But like, I don't know. It's hard to say if I would like give that advice to somebody else because I'm like, oh, I don't know. I think in a way, like the ignorance was bliss because I just like went for it without even thinking about it. But it's definitely been a journey. It's a long haul for sure.
That is so interesting. That the advice thing. I mean, I'm curious if we had the same counselor.
Leslie?
No, I didn't, but I still know her now. She's so great.
Yeah, I love her.
I was on staff at Mount Herman up in the Santa Cruz Mountains with her husband and family. So that's so cool. But yeah, looking back, you said, would you have done anything differently now, you think? Because I also look back and go, I studied film, but my parents were like, you should have done like, got a minor in business or something like that. But it sounds like you knew. Yeah,
I definitely knew because I've had to teach myself so much about the business and just like other things that go along with running this whole, I mean, essentially small business. It would have been cool to take business classes. And I think if I could do it over again, I mean, it's hard to say because I wouldn't want to change anything. I've like met so many people and it's just been such an incredible journey. But it would have been awesome to go to school for business just to have that like extra background in that. Because I didn't really see myself in the position that I'm at now where like I'm running so many things and like leading a team and like doing the accounting and like trying to figure out all the just ins and outs of running a small business. So yeah, that would have been cool. But you know, slowly learning.
The school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot doing this and it's a ton. So I can't imagine the level that you're doing it and the travel and all the business side of things, which again, with music, I don't know a ton about. I always say people who I talk to on here, I ask dumb music questions maybe, but I know what I like when I hear it.
Yeah.
Which is your music, which is amazing.
Thanks.
And so growing up though, and kind of, you know, learning the guitar and playing some piano and things, was it, you know, response from your peers, or was it like a certain feeling that you got from playing, writing, music, performing? What was it that really you think gave you that feeling that it was inevitable for you to follow this path?
Yeah, I think initially was the feeling of coming off stage and feeling like you've accomplished something or that you've like, you know, sent the message you were trying to send to the audience. And like for me as an introvert, especially at a younger age, I think it was just the easiest way for me to connect with people, which is funny because I never really got stage fright. Like that's never really what put me off about performing. I felt way more comfortable on stage. And even now when I'm touring and stuff, like when I get on stage and I get to tell stories and like communicate with the audience like that, that's how I feel most connected to other humans. And so, I don't really know where that comes from. I think a series of, I don't know, maybe past lives and lessons learned through time. But I think too, when I started songwriting, it's this feeling that like when you're done writing a song, at least for me, you just feel this like huge weight lifted. Like it's almost like self-therapy, where it's like I could always tell I needed to write a song when just other little things in my life started to come up and like get anxious, or like things felt like they were falling apart or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I just need to write the song. And it's just kind of like, okay, here we go. Like the cloud is lifted. So I don't know. It's just, it feels like something I have to do. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a big time runner, and I talked with a runner, and he said that same thing. He's like, you and I run and we just need it. So it's interesting you say this thing about like therapy, music being your therapy. And I wonder sometimes after talking with multiple people about this same kind of concept of what you need to do to, stay sane or feed that creative side of you.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is. Do you think everybody needs to have a certain thing? And like, how do you find that thing? Because for you found it so young.
Yeah.
I found filmmaking so young. Some people search for that a long time into their life. So what helped you to, I guess, know that was the thing? Because people probably stand to benefit from hearing that.
I know. And my answer is like so cheesy, but
let's hear it. I bet
like,
not.
It found me, like, I don't know how else to say it really. Because, it's kind of funny because I don't know what I would do without it. And that kind of scares me sometimes, because I feel like when you do go on a journey of like finding those things that, just help you move forward as a human, you can explore a lot of things. And I don't think I've necessarily explored too many. Like this is like the one thing that I've done, the one thing that I feel confident doing, and that I've made a career and that I feel like I'm good at this point. And so sometimes that's scary, because what if one day I just woke up and it was like something happened and like it was all stripped away, and I'm like, that would be a very interesting twist in my life, because I think I would have to go on that journey as well, and then I would probably be asking other people for that same advice.
Have you thought of that before? Because going back again to running, I thought if I ever had some sort of injury where I couldn't, I mean, so much of my identity is wrapped up in these things that, I mean, they give you so much life, but I mean, life goes on beyond running, beyond filmmaking. So have you ever put thought to, what you would be doing if you couldn't be singing and performing?
Yeah, I think in terms of like a career, I was always really interested in music therapy. And I think, if something were to happen like that, I think that would probably just go hand in hand quite well, because I, at this point, feel like I have a pretty extensive knowledge of music that I could apply that to helping other people, especially like music therapy in like elderly people. I just find that to be so beautiful, how sometimes that's the only thing that can like connect them back to their reality. And so probably something along those lines, something in social work, or like working with other people would probably be what I would want to do. Yeah.
That's really beautiful that you have a passion. I mean, in a way, I mean, music, you can do it by yourself. You can play with others as a band, but I love that you also want to impart that passion to others, because it's, done so much for you, and you can see that for other people as well. So then moving kind of beyond when you felt music, I don't know how you said it, music found you or however you mentioned it, but where do you go from there? You mentioned going to school and doing something there before Texas. What was the road like?
Yeah, so I moved to Hollywood right after high school and attended Musicians Institute, and I took the vocal performance program there, and it was just like an associate's degree, and it was on a quarter system, so it was just straight through, I think, for like 18 months. And during that time, had a lot of great teachers and met incredible people that I still play music with. My keyboard player, Spencer Peterson, we've been playing together for almost 10 years, and like he's going to be at the show tomorrow. And I just like, it's so wild now that it's been that long, but I'm like, as much as I did not enjoy living in that part of the world, I'm so grateful for it. And it was so necessary, because it really started to kind of define like what I like and what I don't like, and what I can handle and what I can't handle, because LA is obviously like a pretty intense place. And
like
I was
Hollywood?
like, okay, this is not for me.
Hollywood sounds so glamorous.
Nope, no, it's not. And like, there's so many beautiful parts of LA.
Yeah.
I just was not in one of them.
Sure.
But some people thrive there.
Sure, yeah.
And that's so cool. But I think, growing up in Santa Cruz, it was definitely like a huge shift. So yeah, LA was there. I ended up actually staying for about 4 years after the fact, because I had my band and like we were gigging and, going through the motions, trying to play out, trying to record, and, meanwhile just like being so broke. I didn't know what to do, and like sleeping on floors, and just like, man, like going to bed for dinner many nights, like just like pretty rough. But then after moving back up to Santa Cruz, once I was done with that, I came back up here, and that's when I started performing alone, like a lot. And I got hooked up with this booking agency in Monterey and started doing between like 6 and 8 gigs a week, each gig being 3+ hours. And most of them were like corporate gigs and weddings and hotels and wineries and things like that. And that time was like so crucial for me, because it's really when I got the like 10,000 hours of being by myself, driving to the gigs, setting up the gear, playing by myself, doing the whole thing. And I think that's what really gave me the confidence to do what I do now, which is primarily solo performing. So when I'm touring now, it's, hopefully we get to a point where I can take the band. But for now, where I'm at, just like financially, it makes more sense to go by myself. And so, yeah, if I didn't have those like 5 years of doing all that solo performing, things would be a lot different. So I was in that grind for a long time. One of the reasons why I wanted to move away too, because once you get in it, it's really hard to stop, because you're just in a flow, and like finally was like making money, playing music, and didn't have another job. And I was like, man, I'm doing it. This is great. But I'm not playing any original music, and I'm not really playing with a band, and I'm not playing ticketed shows or, any like clubs or venues or anything like that. And so I was like, I gotta move away. And then moved, was getting pretty connected in Austin, and then COVID hit. And that's when things like really shifted for me. Pretty much everything in my life fell apart, like not because of COVID, but just happened to be around that time where like there was just this huge shift, and I could feel it. I had just turned 26, and now like I don't know what I would have done without that like massive just implosion of everything, because that's what drove me to do the record. And because everything else was stripped away and I didn't have any of the gigs, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with all these original songs? Like, I think if I'm going to do this whole thing, I need to make a real big push, and like now's the time. And so once I started kind of just like calling that in, everything started lining up really organically, and just like fans that had been coming to shows in Monterey and California and Texas like came out of the woodwork and was just like, we want to help you do this record, like let's do it. And I just felt so supported by them in that time. And I know a lot of musicians can probably relate, like fans really came through during COVID. And yeah, found a producer and put the album together, and then did the self-release of Mad 20s the following year in 2021. So, and I haven't really played a corporate gig since then. And it's been crazy. It's been a crazy ride.
Well, I definitely want to get into the album. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Listening to it on the way here, gearing up for this, getting in the zone, and it's so unique, and I want to get more into that. But I want to ask, I mean, you talk about, going to bed for dinner. I mean, that's rough, Is that, the typical timeline of someone trying to make it in the music business? And then at the same time, it has to be so much more gratifying to have gone through something so, long and trying, and you're kind of, seeing what you like along the way, and how to, form your sound and what you want to do in the world as a musician, as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be just such a crazy journey. Is that the typical way that it happens for folks?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of similar stories. Like normally there's the like super broke, playing on, busking on the street for, a couple bucks here and there. Yeah, I would say that's like, looking back, it's pretty normal, I would say. And I am glad I went through that for sure. I think I always felt like I got a late start because by the time I was like, okay, I'm really going to make this push. I was like, I'm already 26 and like, there's just this weird thing, not so much anymore, luckily, but when I was younger, there's this weird thing that's like, if you're past 19, like you can't do this, and the other thing. And so there was always that kind of that like pressure in the back of my mind, but that's changing a lot. And I'm so glad, that, and especially in the genre I'm in, Americana, the artists that are getting recognized are a lot older. They've put out 10 albums already. And now like they're really coming in, they're like fully blossoming. And I'm like, okay, that gives me so much hope because I feel like to have a sustainable career, you want to do the first things right and the right things first. So that doesn't bother me too much anymore in terms of timeline. I think the other thing too is that everything changed when I stopped like blaming other people for holding me back because I was like, well, it's this person's fault that I haven't gotten this far, and like because this happened to me, like that's why I'm not further along doing this other thing, and yeah, I once you just like put an end to that thought process, I think that's when like a lot of things start opening up for me.
Yeah. Because I mean, you can't change circumstances. Sometimes all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah.
And what you can control.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the people pleasing too. Like that was a habit. I started really going to therapy that year, 2020. And that was the first thing that came up was the people pleasing. And I was like, oh man, I've been doing everything for everybody else, thinking that if they're happy, then I'll get further in life. That's not the way that works. So.
And you mean like with music or just like in general?
In general.
Yeah.
But the people that were closest to me were really involved in my career. So yeah, it was just always like a blame game and yeah, it gets hard. A lot of like egos are involved, and because music is a career as well as a creative process, it gets a little like messy sometimes when you mix it.
It's like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so it's all the people that are involved with it too. Yeah, for sure. So, going into then COVID, what was like the first kind of major, step where you thought, okay, things are starting to turn around and this is starting to feel good and you were like excelling, like, mentally and with the music too?
Mentally took a while, but musically, I think it was towards the end of 2020 when we were like getting all the songs ready for the record. And I went into the studio in Nashville I didn't know he was going to be my producer for the full album at the time, but I went in just kind of like test the waters, feel it out. And within 20 minutes of that session, I was like, this is how I want to do the whole record. And so at that point, one of my fans like became an investor of the album. And so that was just like a godsend. There's no way I could have done it without him. And yeah, that's what I mean. Just like when everything came together, I think it was like a moment of surrender during 2020. I'm like, all right, I've hit rock bottom. I have nowhere but up to go. What does the universe have in store for me? And like, just like fully surrendering to that moment, just like the gifts started coming in and the blessings and just like the right people at the right time. And so, yeah, we went in the studio, did 2 songs, went back to Austin. I was like, this is how I want to do the record. And then went back a month later and we cut the entire thing in one day.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so many things in life, I feel like, when you're trying to rush and make something happen on your time, you just got to wait and just do it when it feels good. And
yeah.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
So then, let's talk about your 20s and more specifically, Mad 20s, the album. It's phenomenal.
Thanks.
So it came together and you put it out. It's just incredible. What was the response like, and what has it been like for you to get to perform that all over the place?
The response has been great. I think better than I ever could have thought it was, because I've had a lot of these songs for a long time, because this is the debut album. So, the oldest one on the record I wrote when I was 19. And so at that point, as a songwriter, it's hard to be unbiased, being like, which ones are people going to like? And like, oh, I can't believe we're putting this one on there. It's so old. But, it turns out to be somebody's favorite. But the response initially was fantastic. And we ended up working with 2 incredible Americana radio promoters. And so when we started the radio campaign at the beginning of 2022 is like when I feel like it really took off, because then it was being played all over the country and I was going on these radio tours and like meeting tons of people, and just what I would hear from everybody. It was really validating, because for me as a songwriter, like, these are my babies and I love them either way. I was so happy with the record before anyone had heard it. And so just to hear that from people and see their connection to it, I was like, okay, we're doing something right. But I think it goes back to, waiting, like being patient and waiting to do it at the right time, because there's a soul and like an energy to every record. And people feel that subconsciously. You can have 10 great songs and like have an amazing producer, an amazing band, but everything that goes in behind it, I think, is actually what people feel when they hear it. So yeah, I think that's why it, connected.
Yeah. I always try to think why things, artistically connect with people. And I think it's just, everybody's going to connect with something. And if the creator of that piece of art feels passionately about it, it comes through. It comes through for sure.
Yeah.
So the actual style and the genre of music for yourself, for the album, what would you say? Because as I listen to it, there's so many different sounds. And again, I'm going to sound ignorant because I couldn't tell you a thing about music, but I hear things, to do with country. I love country music. I hear classic rock. I hear jazz.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how I know. I just, whatever. But
you're nailing it. Yeah.
Great.
That's perfect. Yeah. It's been like, that's been one of the biggest challenges, I think, throughout just my history as an artist and a songwriter, is like, what am I? Like, what genre is this? And it's never been able, like, no one's ever been able to nail it. And for a while that seemed to be like a problem. I had a lot of people being like, well, you got to stick to one lane because it's going to be hard to market, and like, who's your audience and who's the demographic and all this stuff. But as a songwriter, like, the song comes first and you got to serve the song. And so as soon as I try and put myself in any box is when the song like really sucks and like I never want to play it. So my number one rule is like, don't let the song go where it needs to go. Like, don't box myself into any sort of sound or genre or like theme or whatever, or even like lyrical style of writing. Just like, it's going to be cohesive because it's me, hopefully. Sure. Is what I was hoping for. And
you are the genre.
Yeah. And so we decided, so when we started working with a publicist for the album, she's like, okay, I'm an Americana publicist, so that's what we're going to have to market it as. And that can be a little bit tricky because when people think Americana, they think of kind of like country roots, like bluegrass falls under
Folky,
there.
Yeah.
Folk, yeah. But, we went with it, and it was well received. And I think, I still don't know what to call it now. I mean, I've been calling it soul and roll for a while.
I like that.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, in terms of where I will go in the future with songwriting, or like with the next album, how I want it to sound sonically, it's kind of up in the air at this point. I'm lucky to be in a genre that is so accepting now of all different kinds of styles. Like, I got to go to Americana Fest in Nashville last year, and I saw everything from like folk, bluegrass, all the way to like 70s soul with like horns and like the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, this feels good. Like, I feel like there's room for everybody here that doesn't fit into like a classic, one of the other classic genres. So yeah, it's always been interesting, but I think I've come to a place of acceptance where I'm just like, I don't know.
Well, that's great. Yeah. As an artist, that's the cool thing, is that you just get to kind of do your thing and what's feeling good. And I think that's when people may start to fail is if they try to do something to, serve others, or to, like you said, the song comes first, lyrics or whatever. And if you try to fit into a box, it's limiting, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I just never want to play it. I'll finish the song. I'm like, I forced myself to finish this song and now I never want to sing it. It just doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Well, now that you're playing these songs live and things like that, well, you have been for a long time. Do you ever get tired of the repetition of playing your own songs? That's what I wonder about artists.
A couple of them, but not really. Yeah. For the most part, no.
Okay.
No, because the audience is so different every night, and especially when I'm doing so much performing solo that like I can change it a little bit every night, and switching up the order of the set list and like the flow, and I feel like once I'm on stage, like it's all just fun. So I don't really dread playing any of them yet. Yeah. It's still early, but so far I haven't run into that problem too much.
Yeah, that's got to be fun, performing and seeing the response from people live.
Yeah,
too.
It's super fun.
Yeah. So you're at home now. You're playing a show tomorrow.
Yep.
Are you in town for the show? What's going on? And tell us about tomorrow night.
Yeah, so playing Moe's Alley tomorrow night with my band, and the last time we were there was for the Mad 20s release party. And so I'm really excited to go back because that was such a blast. It's mainly what I'm in town for, but actually while I'm here, the band and I are going to be doing a bunch of demos for the next record. So we got to get everything down. I have about 30 songs that we could choose from for the next record. And so I just want to have them all in the back pocket before I decide how I want to go about that release, because there's a lot of different avenues.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it going to be soul and roll still?
It's definitely going to be soul and roll. Yeah. It's funny. Like last year, I think I was going through a bit of an angsty period, and I was like, I'm going to do a record. And like the inspirations are like Nirvana and Post Malone, and everyone's like, okay, like let's sit on that for a little while. And now I'm like, that's probably not what I'm going to do. So yeah, I think we're going to land on, just it's really fun to work on projects like this because you get to choose who you work with. And so I love to let other artists just do what they're really good at. Like, I don't really come into a project being like, okay, I hear this, and this part, and like, I want it to sound like this. I'm like, I really like what you've done as an individual. So I want you to bring what you're good at to the table. And that's how I feel with players too. So it's more so about picking the team and working together rather than like having this whole idea of what the project is going to be like and then try and create it with whoever,
Okay.
So I don't know what it's going to sound like, but it's going to be fun.
You're kind of like the project manager then, and letting artists be artists and then come together for the whole collective vision, it sounds like.
I think it's just like you get a better product that way. It's more fun. It's way more fun for me. Even like when we're shooting music videos and stuff, I mean, even down to hair and makeup, like I'll come in, I'll be like, this is what the song sounds like. Like, here's my contribution to the project, but you're the makeup artist. So like, what do you feel like would work best with this sort of sound, or like this direction we're going visually?
Can we talk about the video you made and now cover online of Breeze Blocks?
Yes. So this was incredibly random. I was actually here at the cabin. This was last July. And for some reason, I woke up really early that day. It was like 7 a.m. and I wanted to take a walk. I took a walk exactly where we're sitting up here. And I have no idea why, but Breeze Blocks was stuck in my head. And like, I love Alt J. And actually they put out a record last year and I was like super into it. But Breeze Blocks came out in 2012. And I don't know why it was stuck in my head that morning, but it was. And I was like, you know what? It kind of sounds fun to learn. And I just picked up my guitar and like learned the first, verse and chorus of it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And like, it's a beautiful day. I'm just like going to throw my phone up here. And at the time I was working with a digital marketing company that was like, you need to be posting on TikTok every day. And I was like, I hate TikTok. Like, I don't know. I never go on there. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. And so I just like, barely any thought went into it and recorded a little video, threw it up on TikTok. And I didn't check TikTok for like a couple days, I think, or like a full day, because I just don't really, that's not my scrolling app. And I went back and it was like 170,000 views. And I was like, oh no.
Whoops.
Oh man, I'm like in my pajamas and like have no makeup on and like this is weird. Dang it. Like the one time something really hits, you know? So put it on Instagram and man, like, I don't know. I mean, it's an incredible song, like I said, and I love Alt J, but it hit people a different way for some reason 10 years later. In this way, I mean, it's like a pretty different version of the song. And so I had tons of people were like, I want a full version of this. And so I finally got into the studio and tried to just recreate. I was like guitar vocal at the same time, one take, like no overdubs. Like, well, we overdubbed some harmonies because we wanted to spice it up a little bit at the end, which was cool. But in terms of just like the take, it was like, you know, one take through. And yeah, put it on Spotify and wow, good. It's been a good response. And it's funny because like I was saying earlier, you know, going from like doing covers for a living to doing original music, of course, in my head, I'm like, it's a cover. Like, of course it's a cover. But now I'm so grateful that I kind of honed that skill of taking songs and recreating them in my own way because, you know, I think a lot of people connected to it. And on the plus side, it got a lot of people to listen to Mad 20s. You know,
that's awesome.
Like followers and streams went up everywhere. And I've had people drive out to shows in the Midwest because they're like, oh, we love your version of Breeze Blocks. And that's why we're at the show. And I'm like, that's cool. I love to hear that. So yeah, that was wild. Super wild. I never really thought, you know, I would have anything go viral or anything, especially for not being super into TikTok. But man, love that platform now. I'm like, this is awesome. And ever since, you know, I stopped fighting it, I think as an artist too, for so long, you can be like anti-social media and like all this stuff. And you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to make it the enemy anymore. And I have met so many awesome people and discovered so much good music. And like as soon as you just stop fighting it, you're like, man, this is a really cool tool. And, you know, there's a lot of great people on here and like a lot of really kind people. And I've been lucky to I haven't experienced any like, you know, negative like trolls on there yet. But yeah, everyone's just like awesome and supportive. And so I've been doing, you know, cover videos since then and they're just like, really fun. Yeah. Yeah. So
definitely a skill because you have to put your own twist on it and things. But I absolutely love that video.
Thanks.
And looking at it even today, it's people that you probably don't know, but people I know in LA like saw that and they like it and stuff. So it connected with just so many people.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Did Alt J reach out to you at all?
No, but
not
that would be cool.
Not yet.
That would be super cool. Yeah. I mean, I really am a huge fan of theirs.
They're great.
Like I love them. So I'm glad it was an Alt J song that it happened. Yeah.
The internet's such a weird place, you know, you never know what's going to hit with the algorithms and all that, but that's awesome that did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question about singing.
Yeah.
Is that something, you know, a talented singer such as yourself, do you have to be born with that talent? Or do you tell people you can take someone who doesn't know a lick about singing and teach them how to sing?
Oh, I definitely think anyone can sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just like, you know, I think with anybody, there's like, you can be born with natural abilities for sure. And I mean, some people are born with perfect pitch and like, you know, but most people aren't. And a lot of them are singers. Like I don't have perfect pitch. But yeah, I've seen like some incredible people who, you know, even think they're tone deaf. They're like, I can never sing because I'm tone deaf and I just can't hear it. And I've literally like seen them 3 years later, like perform at a recital. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's absolutely possible. Just depending on how much work you want to put in, you know,
and just like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for some people, it just takes a little bit more. You know, if I wanted to do basically anything athletic, it would take me so long to like, you know, get good at it. But that's just because I'm not naturally born like that. It would take a lot of dedication.
I mean, would you say you're a naturally gifted, born as a singer? Because like I said, like my mom, when I said I'm interviewing Taylor Ray, she's like, that voice is insane. So
yeah, I think I've just like always done it. I don't know, you know, it's hard to say because I've been singing since I was like 2. I was like always singing in the car. So I don't really know if I had started at a later age. I'm not really sure what the progression would have been. But I think the passion for it is just what comes naturally to me. And like when I picked up the guitar, like it's funny. So I did not like playing the piano, and I never really got good at the piano because I just didn't have that spark for it. But as soon as I picked up the guitar, I taught myself, within a couple years, and I literally could not put the guitar down. Like I just wanted to play the guitar all day, every day. And that came naturally. Like, I didn't have to force myself to do that. So it's interesting. It's a weird concept. Yeah.
For singing, is it something that you really have to put a lot of thought into personally, or does it kind of come second nature? Because I mean, your voice, I say it all the time in here today. It's insane. You have an amazing voice. When I was driving here listening to your album, and I go, when you think about Taylor Ray's voice, I was like, I don't know why it came to my mind. I'm like, it's like a piece of paper. It's just like so smooth, and it's just like
Thanks.
You can hear your voice and just know exactly what you're listening to. Does it just come natural to you?
Thanks. At this point, yeah, not a whole lot of thought goes into it. There's like stuff that I do to prepare for certain things. So it's kind of funny being on the road all the time, having to strategize like how much you exercise your voice and how much you rest it. So on tour, and I'll probably get like a lot of dirty looks for saying this, but like I don't warm up my voice before shows on tour, because if I'm performing every night, it's kind of just stays warm. Like that endurance is just there. And so, but on the other hand, if I'm going in and I know I'm going to record a full record in like 3 months, like I will try and play as little shows as possible, and I'll do like intensive vocal workouts every day, to the point where it's like at the end of the workout, it's like I wouldn't be singing anything. Like my voice is tired, but it's the same as any other muscle, like you got to break down the muscle and then, let it like rest, and then it builds back up. And so you do that for a while, and there's like, a regiment. I have like a full hour-long vocal workout basically. And I would do that before recording an album for sure, like months before.
I'm nervous now. You got a show tomorrow. How are we doing on your voice right now?
Oh, we're good. Yeah, I've been performing so much the past couple months that, we're ready to go.
I was filming a band out in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, and their warm-ups, I mean, I'd never heard like an artist warm up before, and it was frightening. Yeah. They're like, it sounded so odd, but then of course they go up and crush it. But that's interesting. So you stay loose.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and everybody's different, and it is different too if you're sick. Like if you're sick on the road and like you're about to go on stage, like this just happened to me a couple weeks ago where I got really sick thank God, on the days off, like in between the Northeast and the Midwest. So I had like 4 days off, but that first show back on in Chicago before going on stage, like if you don't do some warm up, like nothing's going to come out. So, I think it's a case by case basis, and that's what works for me. Like, everybody's different. And I know people are gonna be like, you don't warm up before your shows, like, but I think too, depending on what style you're singing, for me, like I like having a little bit more of that grit anyways. And so when my voice does sound like a little tired or like a little bit unused for that day, I like that tone. But learning technique in school was essential for sure, because it's really easy to blow your voice out if you don't have good technique, and if you're performing every night. There's just like basic breathing patterns that need to become second nature in order for you to like be able to tour for months out on end, And grateful I had that.
What do they teach you in that type of class? Like, are they teaching you breathing or how to even, move the muscles? Like, How does that work?
Breathing, agility. Yeah. So like how quickly you can move from note to note.
Takes
Practice and just like tons of different exercises. And like singing is like your whole body is the instrument. So when you start a vocal warm up or a vocal workout, you start with like 10 minutes of stretching every part of your body, the neck, and just kind of like yoga. Like even doing like a quick yoga session before your vocal workout, like helps so much. Cause you gotta get it all loose. And it is a mind body connection, just like working out any other muscle. But that is interesting. The one like interesting thing about being a singer is like you got to take care of the whole instrument, the whole body.
Yeah.
So
especially in a live performance, if you're moving around and interacting, because I bet a live show can be tiring too.
Absolutely. And luckily, I'm not like jumping around too much yet. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I watched someone like Hayley Williams from Paramore like do a 75-minute set, and I'm like, how are you doing that? And she's just killing it vocally the whole time too, and she's singing some crazy hard stuff. So yeah,
it's cardio then.
It's
for sure.
a lot. Yeah. It's crazy.
So like we already talked about, so many talented people from this area. Next weekend, are you going to be around? Jesse Daniel.
I know.
He's playing in Santa Cruz.
I was just talking to Jody, his fiance, over Instagram, and she's like, dang, we're missing each other by 1 week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know. We're actually leaving. I'm driving home on the 14th, which totally sucks.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like Jesse and I miss each other all the time because they live in the Austin area, and they have since like 2019, I think. And I've only seen them there like a few times because we're just like always missing each other on the road, or like they'll be in Denver like 2 days before I'm in Denver or something. Like this has happened multiple times. It's kind of like a joke now.
Really?
Man,
yeah,
like,
they tour hard for
I
sure.
love you guys. And I'm like always like, you guys are always crushing it. I wish I could, I wish our paths crossed more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I wish I could go to that
They're
show.
great. But again, going back to just what do you think it is about where we're from that has produced so many talented musicians, artists, athletes? What do you think it could be? I have a theory, but I want to hear what you have to think.
Okay. I've thought a lot about this, and I mean, it must have something to do with the generation that we're in too. Growing up, first of all, being in such a beautiful place, it's like wildly inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of just like a ripple effect that we just happen to all be in that place at the right time. Whereas like, I think I'm younger than, Koff's brothers and just a couple years younger than Jesse and stuff. But I think even subconsciously, like I've been inspired by, just people a couple years older than me. And so I think we all kind of just like inspire each other, and it just creates its own little like energy circle. And a lot of us too grew up in like performing musical theater, LPRT, shout out. And I think just like as a kid, and especially before, like the internet went wild and like phones went wild, we had access to just like being a kid in the Redwoods and like doing summer plays and allowing our creativity to be expressed in that way. Also, the community, especially in the valley that we grew up in, I feel like the adults in that community were so supportive of the arts and inspiring in their own ways. And I think that's huge, like I think back to just like some of the most influential adults in my life other than my parents, they're just like beautiful, creative, like free souls. And I think that has a lot to do with it too. There's just been like support for that.
Yeah. I think you've touched on pretty much all that I was going to add to that, because when I think athletics, I think of the mountains. People can, run out in the forest of Fall Creek. We got, great running, and then you have mountain biking, people biking. So, the athletic side taken care of by the rugged terrain.
Definitely.
But then just being a small town, I think not only is it very beautiful with the redwood trees, you're near the ocean, but being like a small town too, you have such support from everybody. It's like really a small town way of life, which some people can attribute that to, gossip and things like that. But my whole experience has really just been like supportive and feeding off each other. It's a really beautiful way to live, even if you're not in the arts. But I think, again, it really lends itself to, producing a lot of great art and people who are passionate about either being artists or supporting art. And so, absolutely. Shout out SLV for sure.
Man, I know. I'm so grateful for that upbringing. I really am. I never take it for granted. I'm like, man, we really had it made, especially in that like beautiful pocket of time that we were there.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, that we didn't grow up with TikTok going crazy in high school.
Just would have been different. It would have been different. I think we were kind of like the last age before that all happened. And so, it definitely is all for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not just a coincidence that we're all like born in that place at that time. And so many of us are pursuing creative careers. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Not to mention where we are right now. This is just, if people could see where we are right now, epic. it's very epic. We're on top of a mountain surrounded by redwood trees and an amazing vista as well. It's dark out right now, but either way. But we know we've talked so much about, your story, where you've come from, where you are now. Where are you headed next? You talked about some demos you're going to get in, but, what does the future look like for Taylor Ray?
Well, it's looking bright. I just signed with new management, and that was a long process of finding the right manager to kind of take me into the next step of my career. And I'm super stoked. He works for a company called Knitting Factory Management. And that's going to open up a lot of doors because now I can move forward with these demos when they're done with a partner who has a lot of contacts, knows a lot of people. And we're kind of trying to decide whether or not we go for a publishing deal or like a licensing deal or release it with a label or a label services sort of situation. There's so many different directions we can go. Our main goal is just to find a partner who's like just as stoked as us. And so I think that's always going to be the most important thing when like building a team. But my plan is to have an album out within the next like 12 to 18 months and just continue working hard on the road. Got some festivals coming up this summer, which I'm super stoked about. And just continue writing and see where it takes me.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, when that's happening, you definitely got to come back on here and talk all about it.
Yeah.
When people are, hitting you up, I always ask people this, we've got so much great advice from you already today. But if someone, just comes to you and says, what you're doing has inspired me. And I don't know, what that means in terms of, do I want to be a musician even? But they look at what you're doing and they see passion in what you do. And it's so authentic. And they say, maybe I'm interested in this. Or if they're not sure, what are you saying to these folks? Because, maybe music isn't the right route for them, but they see what you do and they say, I want to find passion. Or maybe if it is music, what would your best words of wisdom be to those folks?
Yeah, I would say, well, couple different ones. So one being, if you do have something you're passionate about and you're like really dedicated to like trying to make it work for you and like really like get the most out of it in this life, like building a work schedule, like just as a practical piece of advice, like building a work schedule and sticking to it. Like, I think, it takes a lot of hours, at least like for what I'm doing. And especially having released this last record independently, like it's a 9 to 5, like it's a 40-hour-a-week situation where it's like you're working at the computer at a desk and like you're sending emails and you're doing tons of research and like you're making your own ads and doing your own content and like it's you got to be like willing to put in that extra legwork, which I think for me for a really long time it was like the music will just speak to everybody and like if it's good like it will be noticed just like magically. But in this day and age, like I think like 60,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify every day. And it's like, you can be so incredibly talented, but like in order to cut through all of that and like really make a name for yourself, like it's a lot of work. And so you got to like get real with yourself and ask how much time you're willing to dedicate and how much of an investment you're willing to put in, because it is not an overnight situation. I'm going to be lucky in 5 years if I feel like super comfortable with like my living situation and like just my day to day, but that's the investment that I've chosen to make. And then the complete other side of that, I think what's helped me stay grounded and stay passionate and like in moments of like doubt or anxiety, spiritual practices, just like getting super real with yourself. And that can look like so many things, religion for some people, manifestation practice. For me, it's a gratitude practice. Even if you're having the worst day ever and you're like, this is never going to work out for me, or like, you know, these things are all falling apart and everything, like if you can commit to a gratitude practice every day and like say 10 things you're grateful for, like it'll just keep flowing. Like the wheel will keep turning, and what you're putting out, you're going to get back. So, yeah, I think going deep, taking a deep dive. Like I had to hit rock bottom in order to like come back up and put the record out. And that rock bottom for me looked like what I was saying, just like the complete surrender. Like, all right, we're doing the deep dive, you know, let's go into figuring out like what makes my brain work and why. And like, I've always been really interested in why things are the way they are, and especially in myself, which is why I love going to therapy and learning about, you know, intergenerational trauma and like, you know, what the lineage looks like and how you can break certain cycles and all that stuff. Like I love working on that part of myself. And for me, you know, I don't think everyone needs to like go that deep. I personally enjoy it, but yeah, having something to ground you and to come back to is so important, because it's just overwhelming. It's always overwhelming. Yeah. And if I didn't have that, I would be losing my mind all the time.
Well, that's a great word. Thank you for all of that, because I think therapy could benefit everybody. Oh, yeah. You know, if you need it a lot, need it a little, somewhere in between, you're curious, I think it can definitely benefit. Yeah. And that's also so amazing that you have this attitude towards gratitude. Yeah. Did not mean to rhyme. But it's true, but to go from, you know, being in a dark place, in a place where you're, you know, upset or just not feeling it, to have the attitude that you are going to say 10 things you're grateful for. Yeah. I think that's so incredible. If you can just force yourself to just think in that mindset. It's like, I've heard the thing where it's like, if you're not happy, just smile, because it'll like trick your brain into, you know, being more grateful or happy. And I've done that before. And I'm like, you feel foolish to be mad when you're fake smiling.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So I think that's amazing. And again, I agree with the grind too, the 9 to 5. And with art, sometimes it's not necessarily someone else. I mean, maybe with management it's different. Congratulations on that. Thanks. By the way. But for this show, no one's telling me to go do a Vancast episode, but you got to do it if you want to make a difference. And I don't even want to know how many millions of podcasts there are. But it's not about the money or anything. Right. It's about what you like to do. Totally. And it comes through in a great album. Yeah. Like you put out. Thanks. So it's just amazing. Can we talk real quick about what's going on tomorrow night? I wish this podcast was coming out before then. Yeah, no worries. But Taylor Ray with special guest Mokiliwa. Yeah, Mokiliwa, an incredible local band. If you have not heard of them yet, they are like world music, fusion, jazz. Like, oh man, just beautiful, beautiful music. Incredible. Ellie, the front man, the songwriter, like he just holds you in the palm of his hand and just takes you on a journey. So I always love playing with them. And yeah, if you are local, definitely. They play tons, so check them out. And 3 of the people in Mokiliwa are actually in my band as well. Really? So yeah. So they're all gonna be a big family. Performing one long thing tomorrow? So a couple of them. Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Well, that's super awesome. Fun. And then back to Texas after that? Back to Texas. Cool. Yeah. And then we go to Merle Fest at the end of this month, which is out in North Carolina. I'm taking the whole band. Wow. And I'm really excited about that. From the West to the Central to the East Coast. Yep. Taylor Ray, you are everywhere. I want to thank you for coming on the Vancast today. Thank you so much, Nick. This is so awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And it doesn't happen without people being passionate and good at what they do, like you. And it's just even more amazing that we have this amazing shared connection through our place that we call home. Absolutely. And it's just been phenomenal to see what you've done. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you. Thanks. So thanks again. And we'll see you out on the road. Absolutely.